Hey nerds, it's Hero from NerdFeed. I'm here with Russ Adams. He's the founder of Escape Design FX and an award-winning special effects artist. Russ, when did you first know you wanted to be a special effects artist?
I think we all start out like creature kids, tearing things apart and building things out of those parts that are better than what came beforehand. At least we thought so. But I always like to pimp an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood when I saw Lou Ferrigno being transformed into the Hulk, and like from that point on, I was like,
"This is what I want to do."
Yeah,
I gotcha. What was the most difficult part when you were first getting started?
It was the learning curve, because I'm a kid that came up before the internet and before YouTube and Google, and we had these stupid little data. It was a card catalog that you'd find books, and you can imagine how many books I could probably find looking, for special effects. Yeah. So it was a lot of trial and error, but yeah, it was bad.
What would you say sets you apart from other special effects artists?
I'm colorblind. That's one thing that sets me apart that can sometimes be a pain, and sometimes it's not so bad.
Is it like black and white, or is it like every shade of red is the same shade
It's
of red?
kind of the messing with the shade of red. Like, I remember painting this lion, and I was trying to darken up the cheeks and stuff, and my wife walks into the studio and says, "Why does it look like somebody slapped the lion around?" And I'm like, "Slapped him around?" She's like, "Yeah, he's got really red cheeks." And, damn it, I have to strip the paint off, and so here we go.
All right, so you were on the first season of the Creature Shop Challenge. For the people who don't know about it, could you tell us a little about the show?
It's a lot like Face Off, but we instead of doing a makeup on a person and transforming them into a creature, we took like foam and everything else, mechanized everything in the same time frame that Face Off has. We created animatronic creatures and put people in these suits and disguised them, and that was pretty much the premise of the show, was creating these huge, elaborate creatures. Animatronics and everything in 3 days. So.
What was your biggest takeaway from the show, from Creature Shop Challenge?
Probably not to do another one. The biggest takeaway was definitely read contracts, things like that. It was a lot of fun to be on the show, but there's a lot of stifling that you don't even realize until after you've tried to go out into the world and try to use that national platform to try to build something.
So out of all the materials that you've worked with so far, what would you say your least favorite one is?
I know that somebody handed me something called Warbler once, and I threw it out, and I swore if it ever came back into the shop that I'd burn someone. So,
I've seen a lot of cool stuff made out of Warbler.
I've seen it too. I have to. I'm really impressed with what people can do with it, but it's garbage. It's so expensive, and there's so many other things that cosplayers can use in its place, but. That would probably be the only...
The one you don't like working with? What do you like working with the most, then?
I love fiberglass. I love silicone, latex. All those things are so much fun to work with. Some are a little less forgiving than others, but there's something about making a fiberglass mold or an underskull that just sort of, when everything's going right, and maybe it's the fumes. I don't know. Maybe it's not going so well, and I'm just high. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so if someone's first starting out on a project and they've never done special effects stuff before, what would you say is an easier material to start with?
I'd say that latex would be easier. I mean, there's a lot involved. It's kind of a heavier mold because you're making them plaster molds, but it's a lot more forgiving, and if the mold breaks, you can always super glue it together if you have to, I mean, I wouldn't suggest that on a film project or anything, but if it's your own project and you're just doing little things.
Out of all the projects that you've completed, which one are you the most proud of, would you say?
It's always like the one that I just finished, because I mean, there's some things that I've pulled off that I'm like, I can't believe that I did. It was like a deer. I'll say this most recent we did a film called Monolith. And I had to do a deer for Monolith, and it was we had to fur this entire creature, and they didn't give us enough time to get the proper furs and stuff like that, so we had to use like this fun fur crap, and I was like, what the hell? So I'm like cutting the patterns, and I'm sweating because they paid me a lot of money to make this deer look good, and and finally we get everything into place, and it actually looked right. I'm like,
yeah,
I can't believe I pulled it. But
if you could create any creature, disregarding like prices or time constraints, what would be like your dream creation?
That's hard to say. I mean, I would love to build a life-size present, we're talking about the present Hulk, from the current Avengers, trying to make everything, move right so that there's a
Life size.
person in there. Yeah,
That's gonna be hella big.
I mean, yeah. There's a notch on the cargo door outside of my shop or inside of my shop, and it's got the 10-foot mark on there, and that's the goal. Every time everybody sees that blue piece of tape up in the cargo door, that's the Hulk. That's how big it's got to be, and so we're gonna make it this wide, and it's gonna do this, and yeah, it's one of those projects that you really have to be rich.
Yeah, takes you forever. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Well, thanks so much, Russ, for giving us a few minutes of your
No
time.
problem.
If you want to go purchase books, t-shirts, different custom costumes, display pieces, you can go on his website, Escape Design FX. There's also russadams.me, where you can buy his books, or on amazon.com. He's going to be releasing a new special effects how-to series this weekend called A Workshop with Russ Adams, which I'm so excited for.
Thanks.
Anything else you wanted to mention?
That's it. I guarantee you, the second we stop talking, I'm gonna be like, oh,
Damn, should have included that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you get connected with NerdFeed through all of our social media outlets, and check us out on nerdfeed.net for more nerdy news. Bye.